Hey YouTube or Rumble or X or wherever we're at. How are you tonight? Um, I'm on again in an evening shift, just more helpful actually, because all the kids are asleep, husband's asleep. Now it's just you and I. Yes, I'm drinking coffee. Coffee does not affect my sleep at night. I don't know if that is the same with anybody else. I could drink coffee and go right to bed. So, I also have as a norm, pretty low blood pressure. So I don't know if that has something to do with it. I could tell you about a really exciting episode that happened to me, and my blood pressure would not raise a millisecond. Like it'd still be just 117. Like it'd just be super low. It's genetic. My mom's is low. I think her mother's was low. Something like that. So, I'm doing another rant because I'm still practicing on how to produce a reaction video. So, I'm going to go on a rant about homeschooling. So, I don't know what your thoughts are on homeschooling in general. I am only probably really an advocate for a few reasons. I was never wanting to do homeschooling. I felt like I was kind of forced into it through a lack of options. Uh, Not really through a belief system of any kind. I just noticed it was sometime after the Sandy Hook school shooting that schools, I don't know if they all just kind of worked in tandem with each other and kind of made sure that there were now further boundaries between students and their parents in schools. And they said it was for security, and I always thought that was odd because there's never been a parent shooter. It's always been somebody else's kid or disturbed, late teen, early 20 something. It's never been a parent. So I didn't understand why they wanted to further separate parent from child at school. I thought that was really odd. Uh, and but I was, I'm a pretty reasonable person, or at least I hope I am. And I was like, you know what, maybe I read it wrong. Maybe I'm the a-hole here. Uh, Side note, I do swear from time to time. If that's offensive to you, I apologize. I am trying to clean up my language, but sometimes I really struggle with getting ideas out without them, and that's due to my own inadequacies. And I do apologize for that. So if you're listening to this and around children, I won't get too vulgar if I can help it. Just letting parents know if any of you are listening to this that I might slip up here and there, and I am working on it. I So that's where it started, and then it was I wanted to start this tradition with my eldest that take her in. We'd go find her locker together, besides the open house, right? Going on the first day and find her desk and get her goodies set up and her new pencils and just make it like a fun thing, and then take her out to lunch after school, a late lunch afterward, and just really make that first day an important, fun day that her and I do together. Um, I was so excited to do that, and I got to the front desk, the receptionist, and she was not having it. She didn't think it was cute. She thought it was dangerous. And she's like, well, you can walk her in, but you're going to need a police escort. Now, to me, I was very confused. I thought she was like, oh, okay, it's a joke. Okay, okay. This was in Minnesota, by the way. That's why there's okays, because I'm originally from there, unfortunately. Uh, there's not really much to do in Minnesota unless you are deep into winter sports. More power to you. Enjoy the hell out of that state. I am not a winter sport person, so I moved away. Um, but back to that school, and I'm not trying to single out this school because it was only them. I doubt it was just them. I think it was just like an umbrella thing that was like kind of set out, kind of like how you see all the news reporters report the exact same thing word for word. Pretty sure it was something like that. Like the order is sent down, and then it spreads, and then they're like, yes, sir, and then they just repeat verbatim, and now this is where we are. I just thought as a parent that that was such a weird, like they made the receptionist, okay? This isn't someone that requires a high amount of esteem, right? So for her to come down on me so hard, was so stern, was so smug, it was very confusing. And it was sad because like my daughter and I were so excited to go through it all together and so I had to tell her like I guess I can't come with you, honey. Like they won't let me come in. And she's looking at me like, did mommy do something wrong? Why can't mommy come with me? She came with me last year, but now it's wrong. Now it's a bad thing. Now it's trust the school, not your mom in this building. In this building, it's not your kid. It's really the feeling I got. Like I felt delegitimized that she was my kid. I was like, is this my kid? Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, I always go back to that default setting of I'm wrong. And then later I find out, no, I was right. And it's said with no arrogance. It's just like, okay, so I'm not entirely stupid. I was gonna say retarded. I'm sorry if that's offensive to you. I'm not targeting that group of people. My heart, I don't know how people go and do what they do. It's beyond worthy of praise, right? It's just such a praiseful thing. If you, um, if that's your lane in life, right? Anyway, back to so then there was a concert that they were doing, like a spring concert. Well, because that was the thing too, is that they had like breakfast in the morning, and we were gonna try to do that, but again, no, needed a police escort. I was like, well, I doubt a policeman is or woman is gonna want to watch me eat a egg sandwich or whatever with my kid at a table. But they looked at me like, well, are you a psycho? And I was just so caught off guard by that. They just full on made me an enemy, and I didn't understand why. So then there was a concert. My husband was able to get off early that day so he could come and see her sing. It was just like in a classroom, like it wasn't super huge or anything, but it was an important thing to let her daughter know we wanted to be there for her and support her. And again, the receptionist, like I think she thought she was St. Peter at the gate or something on Judgment Day or something. Because I mean, but then again, she kind of did wave the big stick, right? Because she's there, she's at the front. Uh, there was a big snowstorm that happened this spring day. Yes, it's pretty normal in Minnesota. And so parents were waiting, but they wouldn't let us in until exactly, like, it was like at 1:10 or something. And they wouldn't let us in at 1 because some of us wanted to get there early, right, to make sure we're there not as they're performing, but just before so we can sit down and enjoy the concert. And they wouldn't let us in. They wouldn't let us in until this one, like a janitor or someone, left the door open, and I held the door open and let parents in because it was storming out. It was a blizzard. It was ridiculous because they were like, nope, 3 more minutes. Like this isn't the Ordway. This is a public school. What else do you think we're going to be doing? You want parents to come and see their kids at the concert, right? So what are you doing? Like, and the woman like flipped out. And she just made herself look really incapable. Like it was such a overreact. It was such a histrionic, like, and I think it really throttled some of us parents into being like, huh, that's I don't think that reaction was warranted. So, and then some of the way that they were, like, some of the spring songs were not really springy. They were all just kind of about nothing. Kind of reminded me of some of the songs they would play. So this was a radio station in Minnesota. Cities 97 would play a lot of these indie songs, which I like indie, except when it's about nothing. And it's just this drizzle of words that are empty and dull and boring. And it was like that. It was so, like, you couldn't have had a more bland concert. Like, usually there's like certain classics, you know, um, and there was none of that. It was just green grass, raindrop, like, I guess, which is like for first grade or whatever, yeah. But I don't know, maybe it's because I went to a private school when I was younger, so I have different standards. That could be my bias. So I'm like, what the hell is this crap? That could totally well be. I just thought it was like, why even bother singing about spring? Why even bother? Is it like offensive or something? And so my husband and I started talking about homeschooling because I did not like how they were treating me. And it wasn't like I needed them to sprinkle sunshine up my ass. I wasn't a very demanding person. In fact, I'm a more laid back, shy, shh person. Um, so I don't know if any of you have had moments like that where you feel like you're kind of being cut off from your kid on the school premises. But that was my first stop because I really didn't want to. The way I had seen it done or witnessed it done before with other people, I was like, yeah, there's no way. I'm not raising Deliverance. I'm not raising Little House on the Prairie. This is the 2000s. I'm not doing that. I'm not going to raise some weird kid on purpose. But as we started doing more and more research, we were like, there's actually a lot more options now. There's online schools, there's online public school, which was actually really great for a first stepping stone for me who really had no idea what to do, how to do, when to do. So it was a good like stepping stone to freelance. I'm sure there's plenty of women and men that are like great at doing it and orchestrating it and go right to freelance. I'm just saying if you're a person that's like, I'm really not sure, you can do the public school online school. And you'll be able to see all the topics and everything, and you can choose if that's the way you want to go or not. Although there's other, I would recommend Easy Peasy All-in-One Homeschool. It's completely free. You can purchase the workbooks, but otherwise, if you have a printer, you can they have the lessons with the individualized page numbers. That's something you can look into. It's very easy, actually, and it's really nice. Um, There's also online private schools. Some are very affordable, like 5,000 bucks a kid. So that's really affordable for a private school. Um, Freedom Project Academy, that was a very good school that we went to. So that's not homeschooling, but it is another option. Um, there's also the Ron Paul curriculum, which is really cool. We've been using that on and off, or for different things. So, okay. Now, I would suggest now that I've homeschooled for, I think this is, let's see, she was in the second grade. We homeschooled for the first time, second grade. So that's 10 years. What, 11 years this year homeschooling. So what I can tell you is I really liked it when I had, um, when I was involved in a homeschool co-op. That really helped community-wise, sharing the load class-wise, and then they got to know other kids in their similar predicament, although very different backgrounds, right? It's always interesting what brings people together. People of all different walks of life, things you never considered, and we're all coming together on this thing because we feel like we don't have any other choice. Or some others always just knew they wanted to. I was never that person. I hated the idea of ever having to do it. But I have no choice. So here I am, still doing it. And I have to admit, like, my kids do great. They really do. We come at their lessons in a way different fashion than in the public school or private school. I mean, a lot is familiar, right? There's still set curriculum, but there's also curriculum that's based on different ways of thinking. Obviously, critical thinking is key to bring up an individual who can think for his or herself, which should be the goal, right? The philosophy of your homeschool will decide the success. If you are a manipulative, conniving person, you will not empower your child. You will only crush them and suck the life out of them and create a slave. So if you want to empower them, you will want to attempt to give them every opportunity you can within reason, balance through all the other aspects of your lives, right? And not want to control them. Too many women, like especially women, become that eatable, the devouring mother. I think we all know probably at least a good handful of mothers that are like that because it's more often than not where they're just more about control than empowerment, especially if they have daughters. Devouring mothers do not like to have competition with their daughters that grow into beautiful women. That's another topic though. So back to the homeschooling. So if you're thinking about it or you're like, ugh, I would never do that, they become socially awkward, and actually that's actually completely false. They actually become more socially competent. Who knew, right? They can actually look at a waitress in her eyes and order food and say thank you and please to people. If you're going to homeschool, I would suggest finding a co-op. One you can participate in one way or another, volunteer. I think that would help because you will be challenged as a homeschooler in so many more ways than just one. With your own family, right? Does your mother approve? Do your siblings approve? Do they go out of the way to put you down? And it also kind of puts you in check to make sure you're not putting anybody, well, yes and no. We're saying it can just be a fight, and it's never not going to be a fight. So you might as well try to find some friends that at least agree with you on this. Some like-mindedness and some support. So you don't feel by yourself. You don't feel isolated, right? And you don't feel like, why did I want to do this? And regret, even though the results show you can do state tests every year and they blow them out of the water. They're usually very good. But there are so many options now with homeschool, so many. I'm not exactly sure how states that have school vouchers work yet because I haven't lived in a state that has them yet. But it's supposed to be a set aside amount of money that follows the child. And I believe it's to, so you can afford a better homeschool curriculum or maybe a extracurricular activity that is still technically school, right? Whether it's ballet or a martial art or community baseball or whatever it is. I think you can use it for that. Or to put towards a private school if you want. Although I think the average for a private school is like 30 grand a year. Which, yeah, that's a different universe. I have no idea what that's like to spend 30 grand on your kid for tuition. And that's not including lunches, field trips, extracurriculars. Like, I don't know. Like, that's just a world I have no idea what that's like. But to those who do, cheers. Do it if you can afford it. However, just because it's a private school does not mean they're like safe from certain ideologies that are really questionable, that are kind of like straight up brainwashing. Not kind of, they are brainwashing. If this was some kind of church or Buddhist temple or anything of the like, people would be up in arms about it, and they would have been right away. And obviously, I'm talking about the gender ideology and CRT that has invaded as well, but has been able to come in easier because of that separation, or that further separation of parent and child in a school facility, where they feel like they can't trust the mom or dad, they can only trust receptionist and teacher because they have been ordained, right? So that just opened that valve to further whatever agenda was at hand. I'm not sure what the point is exactly. I think it's just opportunistic because it doesn't really seem to have a big, like, and then at the end of it, ta-da! Like, I'm not exactly sure, and I don't think we're really supposed to make sense of chaos because it's chaos. There's not going to be any sense to it. Homeschooling is going to be hard, especially if you have more than one kid. It's going to be hard. Now, there's ways that you can try to make it easier, and that's why I suggest trying to find a co-op or try to build a co-op with some other mothers, and that can make it more fun, right? Make it more interactive, and grow a more tighter knit community, which is a good thing. Homeschooling in the past has definitely had a bad name, but I think now the stats are in that homeschool kids do far superior in testing, in overall aptitude, in overall attitude, and you are usually a pleasure to work with. And have great drive and interest in what they do instead of being chewed up and spit out by the public school, telling them that they're shit. And unless you're this tint of that shade, of this brow, of this ethnic, of this blah blah blah, then you're not going to make it. And I'm going to tell you, like, that may sound silly, But to public school kids, you believe it. I remember being in high school at a public high school, and they told us the same thing. They're like, if you're a white Caucasian, yeah, just start working at the factory right now, because it's not going to work out. There's no scholarships for you. And I remember, like, because they really focus on that when you're a senior, and being like, well, I guess I'm just going to be a waitress forever, because there's no opportunity for me, and I can't go into over $100,000 of debt for something I'm not even sure of. So like, well, you better be sure, because it's a lot of money. And it's like, I don't know. But then they put down women and men who are hairdressers, do construction, even though you need those people. They put them down. You can make a lot of money doing those trades. They're necessary trades. I say maybe culture shouldn't have been so unkind to people that have those jobs, and shouldn't have had so much reverence towards those in a white coat or sit behind a computer desk. Just because their hands are clean doesn't mean their souls are. Ooh, zinger. You know what I mean. And it goes for all of us, right? I'm just as redeemably filthy as the next person. But I think there's been this facade that I think a lot of us were intimidated by, and we were like, they're the experts. I guess what they say must be true. I don't know. I couldn't afford internet in my house till like 2012, 2013. And I was like a stay-at-home mom, kind of by force in that regard, because my husband was working, and if we put our kids in daycare, I'd literally only be working to pay daycare, and it just didn't make any sense. And then to not be with their mom, which would also not make any sense. So it was just kind of like put in this box over here, and it'd be like, just stay there. And that was really tricky to get out of, but somehow we managed it. And homeschooling was a part of that decision. You really need to have, what is that? You really have to take heart. You got to be hardy, right? To face it, because you mention it and a lot of people are like, even now, oh, you're one of those. Okay, well, you're a freak, and you will be cast out. Kind of like the Amish. But you know what? You really have to not care. And sometimes that can be really hurtful, especially if it's your family. And your family turns on you. That can be a very hard thing to face. So I definitely recommend finding a co-op, but that doesn't mean that women aren't catty. Women are always catty, right? Life is high school. I would like to hope that there's aspects of life that aren't high school, but women cause a lot of drama when there doesn't need to be. And I should say manipulative women cause a lot of drama. Women who aren't manipulative don't notice half the things manipulative women point out for their agenda. But so back to the homeschooling. If you want to homeschool, then do it. Do a little bit of research here and there. And if you're like, well, we'll do it next year, good. Then you've got quite a few months to do it. Also, you don't have to wait. So like if your kid ends in the summer, so end of May, early June, you can have a couple weeks and then get back to it in the summer. You can set up the schedule however you want, right? You don't have to abide by the other school calendar. You can go at it. Some people double it, so they finish a grade every 90 days. However, they split that up. And it depends on the kid, because some kids can handle that, other kids can't. And then all of a sudden, maybe they can when they're in 5th or 6th grade. It really depends on the kiddo, right? And some kids are artists, so you can really kneel into that and be like, okay, let's empower this a bit. Let's get a painting class. Let's do some pottery. Or a child might be a dancer, so you can start putting them more into dance, right? They still do their basics, but it's a heavier day on dance, or it's a heavier day on the martial arts, or a heavier day on science projects or engineering projects. It's a really wonderful way of looking at school. I think in the future, robots will probably be taking over the factory work, which might be a good thing to free up humanity in that way, where they could actually focus on other things other than moving one thing to another area for 8 hours. And I'm not putting it down, I'm just saying, thank God for podcasts or audiobooks, because it can make work a lot more interesting. Especially because a lot of these places, I've been in manufacturing before and it's loud. You can't hear anything. So you really have the earbuds in tight as you're working. It can be a really great meditation, especially if you're a Catholic. You can get all your rosaries in, all the mysteries, pray for the people you work with or for whoever you want. You can get a few of those in. So manufacturing work is really great for that meditative, although you should still pay attention, right, to your duty. But usually you can get into a swing of things where it becomes like a meditation, kind of like vacuuming. I don't know if you guys have experienced that, but when you vacuum, you kind of get lost in it as you do it, and it becomes like a peaceful thing. So if you're going to go into homeschooling and go into it with a bad attitude, I would really look inside and ask why. Well, because my aunt did it and she effed up her kids. Well, you are not your aunt, right? You can do it better. It doesn't have to be that way. Well, I want to be able to do this and this for myself. I completely understand. And you're going to have to weigh that with what's more important to you and your husband. Because that's the thing too, it doesn't have to be every day. You can do a couple days in one day and have 3 or 4 day weekends. So it doesn't have to be this arduous thing. Just do research, start talking to other parents that homeschool, and don't give up. Don't give up. It's worth it. It really is. Like one major thing I have now, because I've even considered like taking a break from homeschooling, and I'm like, well, they don't let kids still have cell phones, right? Because the stats are pretty bad when it comes to kids with phones. I don't know how many more children have to be trafficked or committed suicide to be like, okay, I think we need to back off the phones for kids. So for me, that's a huge one. Or addicted to porn. So for me, when I heard that, like, oh no, they still let the kids have the phones, I'm like, that school is the world of backward. That's not a smart school. They can say as much as they want that they're for the future, but that is not the future. If your kid can still have a phone, you don't know what other kids have on their phones, and it's more than likely going to be some kind of porn. Or some kind of sexually explicit thing going on. And you can be like, oh, well, we have parental controls. Oh, okay. And don't be surprised. Because parents have spoken out over and over. And now, and they speak out because their kid is dead, or their kid's addicted, or their kid is gone. So we can either listen to that and heed the warnings, or we can just keep pretending so that we can be selfish in our own ways and be like, nah, it's fine. That won't happen to my kid, right? My kid would never do that because I'm such a gleaming example. It's utterly like, I don't know. Me as a parent, I identify as, I just see too many red flags. And I would like to think that I can smell a manipulative creature from a very far distance. But then I'm like, well, maybe they had a bad day, or maybe they blah blah blah. And then later I get bit, and I'm like, no, I was right. They're manipulative, and they might not even be aware of it. And men do it too, but it's usually women. I mean, if you're a narcissist, you're going to be doing it because that's how you function. That's your survival skill, which just really sucks for everybody else to have to deal with because it's so controlling and abusive. So that's another rant. All right, well, if you are homeschooling moms, please know you are not alone. We're in this together, even though we're apart. Keep on keeping on. I'm sure your children will benefit in more ways than one. In fact, the stats already prove that. No matter what cousin Becky says or auntie whoever says, it just keeps your guns. It's your babies. It's not the state's babies. It's your babies. And those of you considering homeschooling, like I said, just do some research into it. I don't think any two homeschooling mothers are like, there's going to be similarities here and there, but we're all very different. And if you are someone who hates homeschooling because you think it threatens the vitality of the school, if you're a teacher, the school that you work for, then I would say just like anything in the market, prove to have a better product. And parents will be flocking to your curriculum, flocking to your school. But the standards have been lowered so incredibly far. And teachers have engaged in manipulation against parents. You've kind of started this on your own. And parents feel threatened by what you guys have condoned, what you support, and what power you think you have over our children. I don't know who you people think you are. Especially when a lot of you turn out to have to go to prison because you can't stop groping your students, which are also our children. So I'd meditate on that, which I know you won't. But haters are going to hate. That's what they do. But I do pray that you do come to an understanding of where we as parents are coming from. Sometimes it takes having children of your own, which I know a lot of teachers won't do because they don't believe in that. So I do know a lot of teachers have resigned and quit over some of this agenda stuff that they no longer can take part in, or they have been fired, or they also left because of the ridiculous COVID restrictions that were really pressed upon us. If you want people to fight for the public school systems, then, like I said, don't shine up a turd. Revamp and take a good look in the mirror and be like, where did we go wrong? Because if you're trying to force it, that's your first misstep. As parents don't like force. We don't like being told what to do in that regard. And it's only gonna keep, like, teachers are gonna keep resigning because they can't take the pressure of doing this to their communities. It's brainwashing. And I'm sorry that you're confused enough to be a part of it. So, ladies and gents, homeschool, look into it. And those who are homeschooling and feeling regret or feeling like the world hates you, you're not alone. Keep the good fight up. I know it can be hard. It's been hard for me. I double guess, and I'm like, a co-op would be nice. So I'm going to suggest doing a co-op, or just do a couple extracurricular things, like a few days a week at least, so you're getting out there, so you're not just shut in the home forever, right? Just to get out. So extracurricular activities, if you can't find a co-op, because co-ops are not everywhere, right? It's still kind of a beginning thing. So, all right, well, that's my rant for tonight. Take care of yourselves as we embark on this February, and take care.